Welcome to Dance to Heal. I'm your host, Jenny C. Cohen. Join me as I share stories of how dance and movement can bring healing in a way that is safe and tailored to your life. I'm a cancer survivor, mother of two, and an award-winning performer who found that movement was vital to my recovery. I created Dance to Heal Wellness and also authored the best-selling book, Outside of Recovery, Dancing My Way Back to Myself After Breast Cancer. I will bring new techniques to help you on your dance journey and healing path. Are you ready to move? Dance to Heal starts now. Hello. Welcome, Marjorie. So excited you're here.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
So we're going to kick off our time today by just going to the nitty-gritty. Audience members, before I hit the record, Marjorie was giving me some tidbits on what to say when someone asks you the question or the questions you don't want to answer. Tell us what you suggest, what your secret weapons are.
Okay, well, first of all of us know some people who are nosy, whether that's a nosy Aunt Tilly, and if you refuse to answer her, you start a family feud, or you could, that's a potential. Or sometimes they're people we work with or friends, and they ask you something that's none of their business question. And couple of categories. If it's a business question about something that they don't have, if it's a privileged information, you say, I'm really not allowed to share that, or I could lose my job.
Good point.
Yeah. So when the official announcement comes, I'll be sure to let you know whatever it is you were asking about. But I can't do it now because I don't want to lose my job. And the thing is, if you can say that kind of in a lighthearted way, it helps. It helps. So when you're going to get married already? So when you're going to have a baby? uh, these are privacy issues and boundary issues. You know, that's not something I feel comfortable discussing. And they're going to ask that same question over and over again. And so you use what is called the broken record technique. Now, if you're too young to know what a broken record technique is, although it's true that they're selling records again, if a record player hits a spot on the record and it's a spot that doesn't work, the record will go, So if somebody keeps asking you that same nosy question, just don't raise your voice and don't lose your temper. The rule is that when you lose your temper, you lose in any communication. So you can repeat again, that's really something I'm not comfortable discussing. And then if they ask it again, you say, let's talk about something else. Tell me about your son who's on drugs. I know, you want to do that.
Oh, we're gonna be the best of friends, Marjorie.
Oh, God. The thing is that a lot of these things are boundary issues, and people want to know stuff that's really none of their business. And one of the things that you want to do is stand in your power, your vibrant vocal power. That's the name of my business. That's what I like to help people, especially women. Gender bias is against us using our vocal power. And so I'm the niece of three suffragettes. So, so I'm a flaming feminist. And so I like to help women, especially, come into the power of their voice. But I did help a wonderful guy who is a CPA, and he was headhunted and invited to be in charge of the financial, his chief financial officer of a big uh, university, and he had no problem with the finances. But running the meetings, oh my God, he was so frightened. And the worst part of that was when his dean asked him a question, even though he knew the answer, he would have a panic attack. Oh my God. So he and his wife had moved to a new town, and he was afraid of losing his job. He had a 2-year old, and his wife had just given birth to a baby. And when we were done working, he brought me one of those boundary issue questions because moving to a new town, he and his wife wanted to make friends. So their church had a friendship group that they joined that met, I don't know how often, on Sundays. And there was this one woman who was always asking him personal questions that were none of her business. And, he was, kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. He wanted to have new friends in this town, but he didn't want to answer the question. And so I said to him, there's a generic answer you can give. That's really something that's very personal, and I'm not comfortable answering it. And if the woman repeats it, because these nosy people never know how to take no when they're told no the first time. They figure if they keep nagging. So, as I said, that's really a personal issue, and I'd really appreciate if you respect my privacy. So I'm new here, so tell me a little bit about you. So we're
Oh,
just,
I love that. I love that deflection.
yeah,
Deflection.
yeah.
Redirection.
So yeah, so we're just getting to know each other. So tell me a little bit about you. What do you do, and what are your interests? And throw a question back, and notice, please, people get more meaning from the tone of your voice than the actual words. So you don't want to sound angry. You just want to say, that this is important to you.
I absolutely loved how you demonstrated that by lowering your tone when you were explaining or demonstrating the phrases to use. I think people are not used to women speaking from a lower range of tone. Usually,
Oh,
women.
yeah, up here.
Yeah, in situations, if I'm very calm and I speak in a lower tone, certain people, it actually enrages them because I'm sitting in my power and they don't want me to be there.
Well, that's their problem.
Exactly.
One of the things I ran across some time ago, in fact, I think there's even a book by this title, Your Opinion of Me is None of My Business. If who I am irritates you, that's your issue, not mine.
Amen. Amen. That needs to be put well, hmm, certain jobs, opinions do matter, right? And if we're sitting in our power and being true to ourselves and holding true to strongly what we really truly believe in and we're upfront about it, then it really isn't up to us if someone likes us because we're going to attract who we're meant for, and that's that. I want to ask you a question regarding that though.
Sure.
If a person is practicing for a situation where they traditionally haven't spoken up, what are some beginning steps they can do, Marjorie? Because they're not going to have you in their pocket to just pull out and be like, Marjorie says, you know, what are some things someone listening to this interview right now or watching us on YouTube can utilize? Because in this day and age, right, honestly, especially post Panini, I call the pandemic the Panini. It's very, very, we're infused with a lot of angry people, and everyone's afraid to touch someone off. Yet some of us are coming into power. What are the
Right.
beginning steps?
Well, first of all, nobody likes to be told what to do. When people feel they're being told what to do, they immediately revert emotionally to the terrible twos. No, you can't tell me what to do. So, one of the things I learned many years ago from a really wise mentor is that if you wanted to share some information with somebody and you wanted them to be open to listening to you, you would ask this question and notice the tone of voice, please. May I make a suggestion? And then you shut up. You don't start with your suggestion. They have to give you permission before you will tell them anything. And I have to tell you, once I even waited 5 minutes till the person said yes. And they always say yes. You know why? They're curious. We're curious. And that's when we go to the subjunctive tense, which we may have learned in 8th grade. Well, and we do what I call a sandwich. You take away your suggestion, then you make it, then you take it away again. Let me give you an example. Well, a friend of mine ran into a similar situation. I don't know if this is going to work, but let me share it just in case it's helpful. And then you make whatever your suggestion is. But as I say, you're a different person. It's a different situation. I just wanted to make sure I shared it in case it's helpful.
I'm so happy. I'm on the right track. That's what I do, but in my own words.
But the thing is, you don't have to use my words, but the tone of voice is really, really crucial.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And my original question had to do with if a person is learning
Oh,
to
right.
up for
Sorry.
themselves. It's okay. I love it. It's still very pertinent. It's all overlapping. How does one, is there exercises we can be doing? How does one begin to set boundaries besides lowering the tone of their voice and slowing
Okay.
down?
So the foundation, the absolute foundation, without which you can't get it, of communication confidence is knowing what you want to say and rehearsing it enough in advance that it just kind of flows. My singing teacher is a former opera singer, and she told me that opera singers don't consider a role they're presenting to be in their voice. That's the term she used, until they've sung it at least 60 times. So if you have something that you really want to say, you rehearse it. And not standing in front of the mirror and saying, and look, oh my God, you want to discourage yourself? Just do that. I can't believe how my face looks. Huh? Yeah. You're walking from the kitchen to the bedroom. You're driving someplace. There are plenty of opportunities when you're by yourself when you can say whatever it is you want to say and practice it. And there's an old joke about this, by the way. A tourist goes up to a policeman in New York and says, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Which of course is one of the top performance venues in the United States. And the policeman answers, practice, practice, practice. So figure out if you want to tiptoe in and say, may I make a suggestion in a meeting? And by the way, one of the things that women have to deal with is the tremendous gender bias
Oh, yeah.
in our society. I mean, even in the Supreme Court, the male justices interrupt the female justices. I mean, you'd think they have good manners by then, right? No. So actually, Kamala Harris gave a perfect example of that when she was interrupted by hecklers. She says, I'm speaking now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she held up her hand.
Yeah. That's true.
I
Exactly.
have not, I have not, would you give me the courtesy, please, of allowing me to finish my thought?
Mm-hmm. I love it. And, when I was doing voiceover work and studying in that realm, there was a specialist that was brought in to show us a person's vocal cords, what it looks like, and how is an actual muscle, and how even practicing it, like you said, in real time, in real life, while you're moving around is essential because doing it statically in front of a mirror isn't a real life experience.
No, and it's interesting because I also studied voice acting. And not because I wanted to become a voice actor, because it's about as easy to become a voice actor as a regular actor. And for those of you who don't know what a voice actor is, that's the voice you hear in commercials and cartoons and robocalls.
Yeah.
And the thing that I learned and what I realized is both my singing and my voice acting studies is that when you are speaking or singing,
Mm,
your body is your instrument and you've
absolutely.
got to keep it in tune. And so, what instrument is your body? It's not a horn or a violin. The closest instrument that I can think of is an organ. You've
Hmm.
got your pipes, and your lungs are your bellows.
Yep.
That's where you get the air to support your voice. And it's
Yes.
really important for women to make sure that you take breaths as you speak. This is something to practice in your speaking voice. Because when you don't do that, your voice doesn't have any resonance and it doesn't sound authoritative.
One of the things I have to remind my clients when we're doing stretching is they'll say, I'm breathing. And my retort is, in my classes, my classes, I always encourage if I ask you a question, you must talk back. If you cannot speak to me while you're doing something, even if it's an active movement, you're holding your breath.
Right. And what I like to share with people, and it's sometimes helpful, is your lungs are protected by your rib cage. You are not taking a big breath unless you feel your rib cage expand. They talk a lot about belly breathing, but it's before it gets to the belly, it's got to go past your rib cage.
Oh, yeah.
So when you're breathing, you want to feel that rib cage expand and then the belly, at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
And listen, I had an interesting experience, Jenny,
Hmm.
talking about, I made it a practice to try and get into the habit of always breathing deeply before I start a sentence or a phrase or whatever. And I was having lunch with a friend of mine who gave me the name of my current singing teacher. And this woman, who's unfortunately passed away, but she and I were having lunch. And a friend of hers, who's also a singer, came up to say hello. And we were chatting. And her friend said, "You're a singer, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, how'd you know?" Because the way you support your voice when you're speaking.
Hmm.
It's really important to breathe. Helps keep us alive, of course.
Yes. Yes, there is that small detail. Breathing keeps you alive. And audience members, there is this intricate muscle called the diaphragm that is correlated with the rib cage. I am so excited Marjorie's bringing this up. It doesn't come up in normal conversations with people. And it's actually essential for you to know your body because it is your instrument that's within your very own control that no one else can control but you,
That's for sure.
right? So Marjorie has a gift for us, folks. We're going to go to vibrantvocalpower.com/interview to get your gift from her. Now, this is super important. It will be listed in the description of the YouTube video and also the podcast platform you're hearing this on. I absolutely want to make sure that you push that click so that you can access Marjorie's gift. She has a plethora of tips to share with you, and I do want to ask you though, Marjorie, when I had you filling out the form for the interview, you had given the title of the three-legged stool of communication confidence. Will you share a little bit with us what that means? I love this. I'm very curious.
Okay, so I'm a big fan of metaphors. My favorite metaphor, which you'll see on my website and you can see in the corner of the screen, is a lighthouse. Now, that's not just because I live in Michigan, which is on four of the five Great Lakes and has more lighthouses than any other state in the United States. Your message is a light for the people who need what you have to offer. Well, what does a lighthouse do? It rescues the boats that need a safe harbor, or if there's a big storm, it does a big rescue. It also, by the way, for those of you, oh, I hate when somebody says no, it also sorts between those who need you and those who don't. Pardon me, I've got to hydrate. That's another thing to do. Your vocal folds function much better when they're hydrated. Mine just dried out. But
Well,
think about
not to interrupt you, but Marjorie, while you're sipping your water, I always have sugar-free cough lozenges to
it.
keep myself hydrated. I love this. Go ahead.
Okay, so think about a lighthouse. It does not go up and down the shoreline following the boats that pass it by. That means if you have a well-crafted message, it will sort the same way a lighthouse does between the boats that need it and the boats that don't. And your well-crafted message will sort between the people who need you and those who don't. And don't forget, putting out your message is planting seeds. Somebody may not need you now. I have a current client. When she got in touch with me, she said, well, you invited me to connect with you on LinkedIn about 6 years ago. And I've been following you, and I've got a problem now. I need your help. So somebody, plant those seeds. You don't ever have any idea when they're going to bloom. Or, oh, I got a friend who's got this problem. I just ran across somebody who could help you.
Yes. Yes.
And the thing about that gift, by the way, I want to explain the value of that gift. One of the ways that you reach out to other people's audiences is getting on podcasts. And there's a real art to getting on a podcast and being effective at it. First of all, your host is not obligated to do a research on you and find out what you want to talk about. You figure that out. And you give that host a list of, suggestions, questions that you're willing to answer as a basis for a conversation. You also provide an introduction so that you don't have to get up there and say, oh, I have this and I this and I that and that, and you're sounding like a self-centered narcissist. Let the host introduce you and all of your wonderfulness to the audience so they're excited to hear you. And they share your authentic authority. So now you can sneak it in. There's a way of sneaking in your authority if you're answering a question about something. When I was, this is a wonderful example. When I work with somebody, we always have a shared Google Doc and we go over the message because like I said, that's the foundation of your confidence. And this man sent me, oh, I've got a wonderful speech. I'm just afraid to give it. And so he shared his speech with me. Jenny, I read it once. I read it twice. I read it 3 times. And when I met with him, his name was Michael. I said, Michael, I have to give you a little tough love. I said, when I was at Michigan, I took a philosophy course and I found those guys easier to understand than your speech. And if I can't understand it reading it, nobody's going to understand it hearing it. But I never leave anybody, in the down position. I said, but you've got some great ideas. Let's do a little dental work and extract your best ideas. See, isn't that a wonderful metaphor?
All right. So I'm
So
going to
that's
back. So what are the 3 legs of the stool of
okay. Yeah, okay. Yes. I call them what, how, and allow. And a 3-legged stool, if one leg is missing or too short.
Yeah.
So I call those legs what, how, and allow. What is your message? Is it clear? Is it concise? Is it in the language that resonates with the people you want to serve and help. You don't talk to plumbers the same way you talk to physicists. It just doesn't work. The second is how. How are you presenting it? And the how actually is two parts, but that would make it a four-legged stool, which would ruin the metaphor. How is orally? Are you using your voice effectively? Are you using the pause, which is one of the most effective things you can use? And is your voice pleasant, and or is it, kind of irritating? And the other how is visually. People send these emails
Mhm.
that are these big blobs of text in a small font that the human eye cannot read. And I got a master's in audiovisual education from Michigan. So one of the things I like to do is look at people's LinkedIn's about section, because those are dangerous. I mean, the small font, and they put these big paragraphs with all of their information. I mean, nobody can read it, and they don't. Then the third leg, which is one of the reasons Michael came to me, is the allow. Are you allowing yourself to share your message?
Mm.
So one of my other metaphors that I love, that the fellow with the CPA gave me, when we finished working together, he said I gave him all kinds of tools for his fear-busting toolbox.
I love that. Thank
Yeah.
you. And I think they didn't they isn't there a survey out there that says one of the number one fears in this country is actually speaking?
Yes, there's a very funny YouTube video that Jerry Seinfeld did about that. He pointed out that, there are a number of people who are more afraid of public speaking than of dying. And he says it means at a funeral, some people would rather be the body in the box than the person delivering the eulogy. But I have a different definition of public speaking than most people have. Uh, Most people think public speaking is giving a speech.
Mhm.
Well, I grew up as a shy introvert. So I consider public speaking anytime you talk to somebody other than yourself. So it's on stage, online, on the phone, it's networking, it's all of these situations. It's in meetings, it's responding to nosy Nellies.
This is an exceptional observation. I absolutely love this. Audience members who are watching and listening, I just really need you to stop really carefully, like stop right now and listen to this. Anytime you're speaking to someone in any setting other than yourself is public speaking.
Right?
Are you giving me chills? Because I homeschool my children, and that's one of their biggest hurdles we had to get over. Because even helping training them to be comfortable making a doctor's appointment, a lot of people struggle with making calls where they're sounding like a strong human on their end and turning the person on the other end of that call into an empathetic person to their problem. That's been a skill they've had to work on, Marjorie. And I mean, they have it now. It's just really interesting when they started making their own calls as young adults. Because, 90% of the time, they would get someone who was tired and wanted their workday to be over. And why is this young child calling me? What do you want? You're rambling. And we had to really work on their ability to narrow down, lower their range, and be clear and concise in what they needed.
That's what I said. The message is the foundation.
Yep, yep. Mm, mm.
Just proved my point. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I think it's essential that people who are watching this understand that it's not a skill we're born with, is it?
No, and I have to tell you that once the pandemic, the shutdown was over, even now, years later, people are scared to go out in person networking. You mean you want me to talk to somebody in person, face to face?
When I see someone that I've only ever met like yourself on Zoom, I always have to reorient because we're physically in the same space. And I have to imagine a box around that person's head. Then I go, oh, yes, I know who you are.
But you know what I call those Zoom calls? Hollywood squares.
Yes, yes. Well, Marjorie, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much. You've brought so much information and education, and I think hope, hope to everyone that there is a way to grab power back into yourself through your voice.
Yes, yes. That's my mission, is to help everybody come into the power of their voice. We each have gifts to share. And if we don't share them, they die. There's a poem that I read in high school, Elegy in a County Courtyard, and there's a verse about people lying in their graves with their messages and all of the things they could have done undone. And they say, people in hospice say at the end of life, people regret not what they did, what they didn't do. Now, that's a stupid idea. They're afraid to even say it aloud. And because they're afraid of criticism. And we didn't even get into the major fears, but that's another story for
Yes,
another.
that's another day. That's another interview when Marjorie returns. Audience members, thank you so much for coming with us to this journey. Remember, part of the healing journey is to be able to use your voice. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Dance to Heal with Jenny C. Cohen. Come back next time to hear stories of recovery through movement and learn more ways that you can move your body. To work with me and continue your journey, visit OutsideInRecovery.com. Are you ready to move?